If you thought Star Wars and Star Trek fans were devoted, you haven't met One Piece fans. One Piece is an anime that has been going on ever since I was but a wee lad in high school in 1999. It's based on the manga series of the same name. It is an absolute phenomenon that just got a live-action adaptation. But is it any good? And why is the media attacking this show? Join me, dear viewer, as I dive deep into Japanese manga and anime and everything it has to offer. One Piece has been going on pretty much consistently for the last 24 years. I didn't get into One Piece until much later in its run. I've watched some of the earlier episodes, but it's been going on for so long, it's pretty much an American soap opera at this point. Almost impossible to catch up. It's also spawned 15 films and 13 TV specials over the course of its run. A show that runs that long has proven it can stand the test of time, and people really respond to it. The original anime on which the live-action adaptation is based on focuses on Monkey Luffy, a young man made of rubber after unintentionally eating a devil fruit. He sets off on a journey from the East Blue Sea where he meets his band of cohorts. The series introduces countless allies and villains, groups and factions that keep the viewer hooked. So it's kind of hard to think about how such a rich universe can be adapted to live action. I mean, given all the Disney live action remakes, the bar is set pretty low. But does the show dazzle like the original did? Given the industry's track record with live-action adaptations, I felt a little uneasy going into watching the first episode of One Piece on Netflix. Netflix, and especially Disney, have really messed up some classics. Netflix's adaptation of Cowboy Bebop left something to be desired. I'm actually a huge Cowboy Bebop fan, and was really disappointed with the live-action adaptation. But it's important to go into any new show or movie with an open mind, and I've got to say, I was pleasantly surprised. Netflix's adaptation works surprisingly well. The live-action adaptation gets a lot of things right, like a robust sense of place and action sequences that feel organic. The show spends plenty of time to set up the rich story of Luffy, providing a few flashbacks to his childhood, which helps establish great character development throughout the season. One of the trickiest parts of adapting lore-heavy fantasy like original manga and anime is figuring out how to make the whole of its world feel both grounded enough for flesh and blood actors to realistically move around in, as well as real enough to be believable to an audience. The original manga's bizarre whimsy actually seemed to come across quite well in the live-action adaptation. Disney can actually learn something here, as it's had trouble adapting classics and other lore. One Piece is proving that you can do the source material justice by honoring the lore and the universe someone else set up. It's also worth noting that each episode of One Piece carried a pretty hefty production cost of about $18 million per episode. So Netflix is betting big on this show. But for how long? Already, shows like Amazon's Rings of Power have been canceled because the bigwigs came in and looked at the books and didn't see much return on their investments. I can't say that One Piece's fan base is larger than that of the Lord of the Rings fan base, but it doesn't bode well for One Piece, especially with how the Access Media has portrayed the show in its reviews. The show has smashed all kinds of records, even surpassing Stranger Things. But that still doesn't stop the Access Media from bashing this series. A number of critics came out and said that the show tried too hard to be faithful to the source material. These so-called journalists are angry about the showrunners actually respecting and honoring the source material. What the fuck? The woke Access Media simply won't rest until they've poisoned every single great story with identity politics and gender ideology. I'm really sick and tired of these wokesters ruining everything. Go crawl back under whatever rock you came from, you trolls. When you produce a live-action remake, you're dealing with source material that has a rich history of story and character development, not to mention a large fan base. So you kind of have to honor the source material in order to retain your fan base. It's really quite simple business practice. Give the people what they want. But it seems that these woke bastards want to ruin everything for everyone. Moreover, some reviewers are even calling the show out for not being political enough. Isn't that a good thing? Why does everything have to be politicized? Can't we just enjoy a good story with creativity and character?
See, the sad thing about a guy like you is is in 50 years, you're gonna start doing some thinking on your own, and you're gonna come up with the fact that there are two certainties in life. One, don't do that. And two, you dropped 150 grand on a fucking education you could have got for $1.50 in late charges at the public library.
A lot of these wokesters in the access media are like that pretentious prick at the bar. They're convinced of their own superiority, completely oblivious to the fact that they're extremely out of touch with general population. Then they go on the attack against the fans. To them, it's the fans that are toxic for liking a show that honors the source material. Good. I'm glad they're mad at One Piece respecting the source material. Showrunners and film producers should continue to keep slapping these wokesters in the face with faithful adaptations of source material. I love seeing them cry about it. I actually very much enjoyed the live-action adaptation of One Piece by Netflix. It mostly captured the quirkiness of the anime, and it did so in quite a creative and innovative way. But what do you think of the One Piece live-action adaptation? Do you think that Netflix remained faithful to the source material? And most importantly, did it do a good job? Please do let me know down below in the comments. And as always, hit that like button and smash that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one.